Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and there hasn't been any other movie this year that people suggested more to me than this one. Oftentimes it was more like downright commanding me to watch it. And each time I had to tell them that it wasn't shown here in Austria, so I just had no chance to check it out. Thankfully that finally changed because it's now out on Amazon Prime. Kantara is a Kannada language period action adventure drama that was written and directed by Rishab Shetty, who also stars in the lead role. It has become one of the biggest successes in India this year. In a way, it reminded me of the big success of RRR. While SS Rajamouli, who is already a big name in all of India, was able to enthrall audiences all over the world with RRR, Kantara was initially only intended for a Kannada audience and then became this big pan-India sensation. It was made on a very small budget, which is actually a pretty sizable budget for a regional Kannada movie, and it made a ton of money all over India. It really struck a chord and I can see why. Apparently, when asked in an interview if the subject matter might be too specific and unfamiliar for a broader audience, filmmaker Rishab Shetty said that he always believed that regional is universal. And that's something that we always like to say as well. Sure, there are always cultural differences and language barriers and stuff like that, but movies are universal because first and foremost they are about the human condition. And that's one reason why it's so much fun and so rewarding to watch movies from all over the world. To get different perspectives, experience new stories, get a glimpse into foreign cultures. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that I understand every detail and nuance, actually far from it, but what a movie like Kantara does so well is that you can really sense how much passion the filmmakers put into it, and that really emerges on the screen and connects to the audience. Kantara is a movie that has a lot of heart and soul, and that wonderful ingredient that I oftentimes just describe as local flavor. It's a movie that's really taking you to another time and place, that really immerses you into this different world. It has such a beautiful and dense atmosphere. The title Kantara can be translated as mystical forest, and it's in that mystical forest that the story about our protagonist Shiva takes place. It's a story about a small village and the culture of Bhutakola. Right at the beginning, we jump back more than 100 years into the past and witness how a king made a pact with a local deity to give a portion of his forest land to the locals. And this pact is upheld to the present day, or the present day of the movie, which is set in the year 1990. There isn't a king anymore, but there's a landlord, who surprisingly seems rather benevolent with the villagers, despite the caste system being very much in place here. The apparent antagonist comes in form of a forest officer, played by Kishore, whose task it is to convert the land into a forest reserve and therefore push back at what the villagers claim to be theirs. Yet he's not portrayed as a straight movie villain, which was refreshing, and you could actually kind of see his side of things as well, because he's just trying to do his job and the reasoning behind that job doesn't seem to be that unreasonable, I think. Our protagonist and hero sees it differently though, and he's immediately butting heads with the guy. Rishab Shetty plays Shiva, someone who is directly connected to the village's history. He is the son of the Bhutakola performer who mysteriously vanished into the forest 20 years ago after he was confronted by the landlord back then to hand over their land to him. Kantara has this nice and intriguing blend of supernatural or mythological and realism. Shiva is plagued with nightmares ever since his father disappeared, something that runs through the movie. And I really liked how it is both used for some comedic moments, but also to portray Shiva as this burdened man who has to come to terms with his position in the community. He reminded me a little bit of characters like Mel Gibson's William Wallace or Dhanush's Karnan. In many aspects, the film played a little bit like this year's Karnan to me, and if you know how much I love Karnan, you know that that is certainly meant as a compliment. Kantara is in that tradition of the angry young man, who's somewhat of a troublemaker, somewhat of a good-for-nothing. regarded highly by his closest friends, and he is a great Kantara athlete as we see in his introduction, but he's also someone who's a little bit lost and whose right moment hasn't come yet. But of course, it will. And I like that he's no perfect hero and role model. We certainly root for him, but he's also flawed. But it's also just so great to see a filmmaker and actor like Rishab Shetty being really willing to go out there, to give himself completely to a role and a movie. It begins with something as ordinary as getting himself really dirty when he's fighting in the mud, and it ends with something that's really quite extraordinary. And in between, there's of course also a lot to laugh and also to have fun with. Kantara certainly plays in that masala realm, and I was surprised how lighthearted and sweet many moments are. There's certainly some humor to the movie, as well as action and romance. The love interest Leela is played by Saptami Goda. It's only her second acting credit, but I liked her quite a lot. And be just for her presence and the way she presents herself alone. Unfortunately, her role is rather limited, and there are also some small moments, like Shiva pinching her, that appear too old-fashioned and problematic. But then again, the movie is set in 1990, and again, I perceived Shiva as a flawed character, and someone who would do something like that. So I didn't really mind it too much. For me, it was more that Leela, like so many other female characters in these movies, is pushed too much to the background. I thought there was more potential for that dynamic and the idea that she has this job working for the forest department. Another minor issue I have with the movie is that I think the beginning feels a bit too rushed. And it's not really because we get a lot of information about the past, but more so because it's edited in such a rapid manner, and I don't really think it's necessary. In the beginning, almost all shots only stand for a second, or even less sometimes, and for a moment I got rather anxious that the entire movie would be presented in this way. It was clear from the get-go that it would be a beautiful looking movie, and indeed the cinematography by Arvind S. Kashyap is really wonderful. It's such a vibrant and colorful movie that beautifully captures the locations and the mystic and rural atmosphere. And the many night scenes are also executed wonderfully. So, in the beginning, I was a bit let down that the editing is diminishing that effect by overcutting it. Of course, this is something that's probably more noticeable to me, as I also have to read the subtitles simultaneously and therefore have even less time to absorb the images. Thankfully though, the visual presentation slows down and lets the movie and the audience breathe more, which I think is very important. Now, in the middle section, I think the narrative is slowing down a bit too much, and the whole incident with the jeep and the tree felt a bit implausible to me. Not that it happens, but what the characters assume and how they approach the situation. But even with some of these minor hiccups, Kantara really delivers with a rousing finale. First, with an incredible fight scene in the rain that adds even more splendor to the already fantastic presentation. And it also injects the action with some nice humor, while also giving our hero a really tragic revelation about what's going on. And then later, the actual climax, just wow. It's pretty spectacular, and like I said earlier, Rishab Shetty is really outdoing himself in the role. And last but not least, Kantara also features a very atmospheric soundtrack composed by B. Ajanish Loknath. So, in German I'd say, Kantara ist ein Film, der beweist, wie viel Reiz und Faszination ein sehr lokaler Stoff haben kann, wenn die Macher ihre Geschichte mit so viel Leidenschaft und Hingabe erzählen. I give Kantara 8 out of 10. It's more like 8.1, but I don't do that. Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about Kantara. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram and Letterboxd, and also on Patreon, simply at TheJimmyCage. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like, and make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.